"I did, son," he whispered. "Sometimes loving someone isn't enough." Oliver cried himself to sleep that night. Clara watched from the doorway, her heart splitting in two. She realized then that divorce doesn't just break marriages. It breaks children in quiet, invisible ways. Meanwhile, Clara faced her own quiet battles. She struggled with nights, with memories, with guilt. She blamed herself for not fixing what was broken. But slowly, something inside her shifted. She began writing in a notebook late at night, letters she never sent, words she never spoke. Writing became her survival. James, too, carried his pain differently. Alone in his flat, he replayed every argument, every missed chance. Regret followed him like a shadow. He wondered if leaving was a mistake. But when he imagined staying, he remembered the emptiness, the quiet suffering. Some loves don't end. They transform. Spring arrived. Snow melted. Fields softened. Life pushed forward, even when hearts lagged behind. One afternoon, Clara and James stood together watching Oliver play. They didn't speak. But for the first time, there was peace in the silence. Not hope, but understanding. Part 3. The Weight Children Carry. Oliver began having nightmares. Almost every night, he woke up crying, his small hands clutching the blanket as if it were the only thing holding him together. In his dreams, his parents stood on opposite sides of a wide field, calling his name. He ran toward one, only to hear the other fade away. He always woke up before he could reach either of them. Clara started leaving the hallway light on. She sat beside his bed until his breathing slowed, whispering reassurances she herself did not fully believe. "Everything will be okay," she said, again and again. But Oliver could feel the truth even when words tried to hide it. At school, he became quiet, painfully quiet. Other children talked about family trips and weekend plans. Oliver stayed silent, staring at his desk. Once, a classmate asked innocently, "Why doesn't your dad live with you anymore?" Oliver didn't answer. He ran to the bathroom and cried until his chest hurt. James noticed the change immediately. During visits, Oliver no longer smiled the same way. He hugged harder, longer, as if afraid James might disappear if he let go. One afternoon, while walking through the snowy fields, Oliver finally spoke. "If I was better," he said quietly, "would you and Mommy still be together?" James stopped walking. The question shattered him. He knelt in the snow, gripping Oliver's shoulders, his voice breaking. "This was never because of you," he said firmly. "Never. You are the best thing that ever happened to us." Oliver nodded, but the doubt stayed. Children don't understand divorce as an adult decision. They feel it as abandonment. Meanwhile, Clara faced her own quiet battles. She struggled with nights, with memories, with guilt. She blamed herself for not fixing what was broken. But slowly, something inside her shifted. She began writing in a notebook late at night, letters she never sent, words she never spoke. Writing became her survival. James, too, carried his pain differently. Alone in his flat, he replayed every argument, every missed chance. Regret followed him like a shadow. He wondered if leaving was a mistake. But when he imagined staying, he remembered the emptiness, the quiet suffering. Some loves don't end. They transform. Spring arrived. The fields turned green again. Sunlight stretched longer into evenings. Clara and James stood together watching Oliver play. They didn't speak. But for the first time, there was peace in the silence. Not hope, but understanding. Part 4. Learning to stand again. Healing did not arrive suddenly. It did not knock on the door one bright morning and announce itself. It crept in quietly, almost unnoticed. Clara began with small things. She started waking up earlier, not because sleep escaped her, but because she wanted to feel the morning again. She opened the windows wide, letting cold air fill the cottage. She cleaned rooms she once ignored, not to erase memories, but to reclaim space. Some days, she felt strong. Other days, she could barely get out of bed. Both kinds of days counted as survival. She returned to the village library, a place she had loved before marriage consumed her identity. She took a part-time job there, shelving books, recommending stories to strangers. Books understood her. They didn't ask her to explain her pain. Oliver noticed the change before anyone else. His mother smiled more, not fully, not always, but genuinely. She listened better. She held him longer. One evening, while doing homework at the kitchen table, Oliver looked up and asked, "Mom, are you still sad?" Clara paused. "Yes," she answered honestly, "but I'm also learning how to be okay again." Oliver nodded, satisfied with the truth. James watched these changes from a distance. Every weekend, he returned Oliver on Sunday evenings, standing awkwardly at the door, unsure of his place. He noticed the cleaner windows, the lighter atmosphere, the way Clara stood straighter. It hurt. Not because she was healing, but because he realized how much pain she had endured while trying to hold their marriage together. One evening, as Oliver played in his room, James spoke quietly. "I'm sorry," he said. "Not just for leaving. For not seeing you when you needed me." Clara's eyes filled with tears. Forgiveness didn't come instantly, but it came. Not as reconciliation, but as release. James began therapy, something he once believed he didn't need. He learned that walking away did not make him weak, avoiding pain had. Slowly, he stopped hating himself. Summer arrived. The fields turned green again. Sunlight stretched longer into evenings. Clara and Oliver started walking together through the countryside, talking about ordinary things, school, dreams, fears. One afternoon, Oliver said something unexpected. "I think our family just looks different now." Clara stopped walking. She knelt beside him, her heart aching. "Yes," she whispered, "but it's still a family." The cottage no longer felt like a place of endings. It felt like a place of becoming. Part 5. What Remains. Time did what nothing else could. It softened the sharpest edges of pain, not by erasing memories, but by teaching everyone how to live beside them. Autumn returned to the countryside, gentle and golden. Leaves fell again along the narrow road to the cottage, just as they had the year before. But this time, Clara noticed something different. She was no longer afraid of the seasons. On a quiet Sunday afternoon, Clara sat at the wooden table, reading Oliver's school essay. It was titled "My Family." Her hands trembled as she read. "My family is not the same as before," Oliver had written. "But it is still mine. I have a mom who listens and a dad who never misses a weekend. I have 2 homes, but I am loved in both." Tears slipped down Clara's face. Not from pain. From pride. That evening, James came to pick Oliver up. He stood in the doorway, older somehow, not in years, but in understanding. "Would you like to stay for tea?" Clara asked, surprising them both. They sat together at the table, not as husband and wife, but as parents. The air was calm, respectful. When James left, there was no heaviness, only closure. Later that night, Clara walked into the fields alone. The wind brushed against her face, carrying familiar scents of earth and grass. She thought about the woman she used to be, the one who believed love meant endurance at all costs. She smiled softly. Love, she now knew, also meant honesty. Across town, James watched Oliver fall asleep in the small bedroom he had carefully decorated. He whispered an apology to the past and a promise to the future. Some scars would never fade. And that was okay, because scars proved survival. Months later, Clara placed her old notebook on a shelf. She no longer needed to write every night to stay afloat. Life had found a rhythm. Different, but real. On the first warm day of spring, Clara, James, and Oliver met beneath the old oak tree near the fields. Oliver ran ahead, laughing freely. Clara and James stood side by side, watching him. "We did the best we could," James said quietly. Clara nodded. "Yes," she replied, "and that has to be enough." The countryside remained, silent, beautiful, unchanged. But the people within it had learned something important. Some endings do not destroy you. They reshape you. And sometimes, after everything falls apart, what remains is strength.